What the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here, back on Total War Attila, and this is going to be a bit of a unique circumstance. I spent a bunch of time recording some videos for y'all, and then realized that my microphone was not on. Yeah, so I'm sitting here talking into a microphone like a moron, and I got ready to upload these videos and realized that there was no mic audio, and I had turned it off because I turned it off when recording Homeworld, because I do Homeworld and Total War a little bit different in terms of how I make the videos. What I'm trying to tell you here is I ran into this this player from VM clan, which is pretty decent, and well, the VM clan's pretty decent. I don't know anything about this player. I took the Franks versus the Ostrogoths, which is probably a questionable pick, and the whole point of this video is I want to talk about kind of how you need to play Total War Attila in order to be successful, at least from a more sure standpoint. You can play it however you want, and if you find success, then great. But that's just kind of what I'm finding. So my build here is, what I'm going to go ahead and show you there is I had 3 pikes holding up the center. I've got 4 Germanic horsemen and 2 Sicilian Frankish lancers in total, 2 elite sword Heirbahn and 1 sword Heirbahn on each flank. So all my power's on my flanks. And basically, I've chosen Germanic noble cav though, which is questionable, and we'll cover that later. You can see my opponent's army here, 4 Germanic archers up front. He's got 2 pike units and then about 5 Gothic Palatina defectors. Those Germanic archers are nice. Flaming shot, 200 range, only 275 talents are always a great deal. So yeah, there you can see his infantry behind it as well. And then in the back you can see he's going to have 6 Germanic horsemen. His general is a Royal Sionis cavalry, and then he's got 1 Gothic lancer as well. So my opponent has a very well chosen army here in my mind. His infantry is very offensive. His cavalry is very offensive in nature. He's got a lot of striking power here, but he can also sit back and shoot a little if his opponent ends up being a little bit slow. I'm showing you these Germanic horseman stats here. If you look, these guys are great because they're high health and good armor and charge. It means that upgrading them is a good idea. And the reason why you don't typically upgrade units that need health, armor, or charge is because the upgrades don't affect that. It only affects melee attack, damage, and morale. And so in the case of Germanic horsemen, they're a relatively good deal for their what you get anyway, and then upgrading them just makes them that much better because they already have the statistics that won't be upgraded. So they are kind of very strong right now in the current state of the game. Germanic horsemen are. That's why all the new factions are going to be relatively decent multiplayers, because they all have access to Germanic horsemen. So I did put my telestration tools on, and here I'm showing you that he leaves a gap in the center of his pikes, and he can potentially use that to charge his cavalry through, as I'm showing there, and basically give his guys a way through the middle of his lines, and to be able to harass my own men. Germanic archers open up on my men. I'm doing my best to focus some fire, and I'm going to use my lancers, because they're my most disposable cav, to just kind of run his archers back. I'm not going to get too close because there's precursor javelins. My sword Heirbahn's already dying to his archers from the front, which means these guys must have a crappy block chance, which is true. They've got very little armor. So, and then elite sword Heirbahn. So if you look at my army, elite sword Heirbahn and noble Germanic horse are not a good pick, and it's because you just don't get a whole lot of return on investment for those types of units. There's cheaper units that do basically the same thing as the elite sword Heirbahn without the awesome throwing axes, and the awesome throwing axes are the... Okay, here I'm trying to show you something. My archers are in loose formation, which makes them thicker, and you can see that his arrows are falling on kind of a wide range of area. So I almost think that if I would have just stayed out of loose formation and made my lines thinner, that I would have died slower to his arrows. But that's an interesting thing I'd like to see an answer to in a test, but that's what I was looking at there and drawing the lines. So what I'm thinking here is that I really need to be aggressive, but I'm showing how my opponent can easily counter any cavalry strikes that I bring into him. He's got pikes in the way. He's got more horsemen than I do, and they're better suited to the type of fight. And then that would leave his lancer free to come up the center and smash my infantry potentially as well. So I'm in a bad situation here. He's got my skirmishers outclassed, he's got my infantry outclassed, and he's got my cavalry outclassed. So I picked in such a way that my opponent was able to pick and basically completely outpick me. And on top of that, not only am I outpicked, I need to try and outplay him, which so far he hasn't shown any signs that he's going to make that easy for me. So I have to be aggressive here, even though I really don't want to. My army is not particularly good at being aggressive, which is why I look back on it and wonder why I chose it. But it is what happened. So I'm going to bring my noble Germanics forward, and I'm hoping to get the first charges. so that I can maybe get some nice damage in. But as I start moving these guys up, I'm microing something somewhere else, and I don't get a charge at all. His Germanic horsemen just slam into my nobles. Huge waste on my part. Very, very bad. I really should have handled my micro better here, and I do make some improvements in coming matches, so stay tuned and I'll kind of give you some ideas about how I made some improvements and what I'm learning from these things as I go through. Here, the biggest thing that I want to discuss to you is that just my army choice here is bad, and so it wouldn't have mattered even if I had decided to play a little better, because you can see that he basically has me where he wants me. Now you see how I have to brace all these infantry. It will stop his guys and I'll be able to pin them down, which is great. But he's just got a lot of mobility, and now I'm in reaction mode, whereas he's in action mode. He's killing my pikes easily with his archers. He's got his general and his other horses coming through the center now that all my cavalry is committed on the flanks. I've made many mistakes, and again, he's got me right where he needs me to be. His Royal Siones are very good against infantry. So as he pulls them through here, this is a severe danger to my general. Fortunately, though, I do think that he comes after my Germanic horsemen here. I was wondering which way he was going to go, but he comes after my horsemen. Just fine, I'll charge him, but I mean, the Royal Siones is not particularly great against Cav, but it's strong, and it just got a nice charge, so it's going to get some kills. My general's in severe danger. I'm lucky that Gothic Lancer hasn't come and pegged him already. I get to chase off the Royal Siones here, and they're going to take some pretty bad losses getting away from my Germanic horse. But I have a Lancer Cav that I failed to activate pretty much this whole fight. I don't know how I missed it, but I did. And I am showing you there how it should be rear charging desperately, though my opponent could just disengage his Germanic Cav and pretty easily stop it. So I'll do what damage I can here, but I killed most of the enemy general. He's almost gone, but it's a little bit too little too late. I'm losing the fight over there on my right. I'm doing okay-ish on the left, but not good. And it's just taking so long to get anything done that it's not worth it. The Balatina defectors are just sitting there wrecking up kills, and his Germanic Cav is being way more cost effective, and now I'm just frustrated because I realize that the thing's just been sitting here. When I watched this replay, it was frustrating. But, you know, sometimes those are the kind of replays you watch to learn what you did wrong that time so that you can try and make improvements on it. It's hard for you to improve if you're not keeping a nice eye on what you're doing wrong. These Lancers are just going to come in here and wreck these elite sword Heerbon or whatever the heck they are. Whatever they are, they're dead. Getting a nice Lancer charge there with the Gothic Lancers. Picking up 30 quick kills, and then he's going to cycle on out, like I should have been doing the whole time with my Lancers. If I could have maybe gotten this fight over here free, it would have helped. But, I mean, he still had archers and all this other stuff. Big problem for me. Yeah, you can see that he picked the better army. He played better, and so he definitely deserves the win here. And he's going to get it. This battle is a little bit glitched out throughout the remainder of it because there was a patch. It didn't change much, but anytime there's a patch in a Total War game, it just wrecks the replays. So this replay is a bit weird in the end, but it still represents the general gist of the battle, which was that my opponent outpicked me. And after this, I'll kind of go in and have a little discussion about maybe some solid picks with the Franks that you could make rather than what I did. The Franks are not particularly good. Just they have a little bit of infantry weakness, but they do have that base Germanic roster that you can draw from, so they are potentially decent. But it seems like a lot of people like myself, I think, make the mistakes of trying to rely too much on their shock cavalry, which is okay, and then also on their elite sword Heerbon, which are not okay. They're just not a very good unit. Watch this unit just get flattened by Gothic Lancers. No time to brace there. Those guys are dead. Gothic Lancers racking up well over 100 kills. Definitely a useful unit for him in this battle. And it's at this point that all my units are pretty much dead. My general's alive, though, so some of them try and come back from routing. My general won't be alive much longer, though, and the battle will be over. But this is why it's a little bit glitchy. You can see his units sitting there, some of my own sitting there. They weren't just all sitting around like this during the actual combat. So that's why it got a little bit glitchy. But again, the outcome was not very different than this. And because it was in another patch too, I don't think it shows the results screen, which was a little frustrating. But so be it. That's how it goes. So my opponent defeats me soundly here with the Ostrogoths. I see so many people playing as the Ostrogoths. If you look at my video, almost every online battle I've been a part of has involved the Ostrogoths. And it's because they're a solid pick. They have Gothic Warband They have access to Germanic horse, the archers, pikes. They have a lot of units, the Palatina defectors. All these units are very good, and so the Goths are a solid pick in multiplayer, and that's why you're seeing a lot of them there. They're not like a Boii where they're impossible to beat or something. Not that the Boii, where I'm being somewhat facetious here, obviously, but they are a very tough faction, and that's why you're seeing a lot of people pick them, as it's a safe pick. But again, any of the Germanic factions have some stuff to offer, but the Ostrogoths obviously pretty strong. So I'm going to jump into the Franks roster here and just kind of walk through a few things. I'll see if I can follow what my mindset was at the time. The Frankish general would have been a better pick. Got mobility, plus he's a melee cav that has an excellent attack against cav. So that would have been a smarter pick rather than the crappy Germanic noble general that I brought. And then the elite sword Heirbahn, if you see this, I mean, pretty tanky unit with decent precursors, but they're not very good for the price. The sword Heirbahn obviously was very vulnerable to enemy fire, but Germanic nobles, which are the cheap 451s next to them, mixed with the sword Heirbahn would have been a better infantry pick than what I did. And the Royal Instrucciones are also not a good pick, just too expensive for what you're going to get out of them on the battlefield for the most part. So the noble Germanic swords provide most of the tankiness at a much lower cost. Now, Francisca Heirbahn are a unit that all of us probably loved from Barbarian Invasion. These are not the same Francisca Heirbahn. They're really not all that good in the current state of the game. They're too expensive for what you get. Germanic archers, I should have brought more of them. They're cheap, and then I should have brought Germanic horsemen instead of Germanic nobles. You really just get like a little extra morale for picking the Germanic nobles. It's a bad pick. You should just go ahead and upgrade the Germanic horsemen. And here I was complaining about how Typhale cavalry is just stupid and doesn't seem to make any sense whatsoever. It's got lower health because why? It gets 2 arrows to fire through a bow. That's pointless. So the Typhale cavalry is another one that I had no idea why. There's a bunch of units like this. Some of you asked me, what do you think about the state of Attila right now? It's fine. It's actually pretty fun to play. But there's some things that need to be fixed, and I mean, the game itself is fun to play. And here I'm giving you a demonstration build. 6 Germanic horse like my opponent had, except maybe give him a few upgrades. Is always a good way to go. And then I usually like to throw in some Germanic lancers. You can get 4 of the Germanic archers. Of course, get the Frankish general. I think is the better choice. You can get some of the pikes if you want. You don't have to use pikes, obviously. I'm putting it on the large settings so that you can see what it would be like in an actual battle. And then infantry-wise, the rest of my army I'd want infantry, but you definitely want to overload with cav a little bit right now, and Attila for the most part. It never hurts, and then see you can just put some upgrades on your infantry at this point and be pretty much good. So my infantry there is cheaper and probably just as capable, and then that gives me a whole lot more cavalry power and archer power by doing it this way. So anyway, that's just my suggestion there that I was throwing at you. You could go with just the sword Heirbahn too, like I'm showing you here, and then give them some upgrades, or even put some of these guys in here as meat shields, but I think the upgrades would be better spin. Anyway, I hope this gives you a little bit of an idea, maybe how to better use the Franks than what I did here. I'm learning as I'm going along. I'm watching a lot of videos trying to pick up on things. Both Blademaster and Maximus have made some really good videos in Attila as far as helping you know more about certain units and factions. Very, very useful if you want to go there. But a lot of it's just hands-on. You just got to get in the game and get a feel for how things go. But those guys could definitely get you a head start in understanding a few things. There's obviously a lot of great content on YouTube right now. It's a pretty exciting time if you like watching Total War on YouTube. You've just got so many characters out there making a lot of campaign, a lot of online, a lot of tournaments. There's just a lot of good stuff. So anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this. Obviously a loss here, not my proudest moment, but sometimes you gotta go look at these moments to understand, like I said, how to improve. Better army choice next time. Something like this would have been much better. And the Franks then can maybe stand a chance. They're still not great, but you'd have a better chance here. Hope this was informational. If you all have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer your questions. I know I've been not great at the comments recently, but I'm trying to hop back in there and get some done. Hope you enjoyed it. HeirofCarthage, signing off for now.